Hey guys, I cannot in good consciousness sit down and just do a makeup tutorial as if nothing's happening right now. I've been very vocal on my Instagram stories and I can't keep silent here on this platform. We're in the middle of a pandemic, which is already bad enough. People are dying, people are losing their jobs, they're going broke. It's terrifying. And while most people are just having to face the battle against coronavirus, Black people are having to face the battle against racism and coronavirus. Today is Saturday, May 30th. It's been 5 days since George Floyd, an African American man, was murdered by a police officer in Minneapolis over an allegedly falsified $20 bill. George was trying to buy cigarettes. Now, he was most definitely not the first one to fall victim to police brutality, but right now everyone is protesting so that hopefully he'll be the last. This horrific murder feels like the straw that broke the camel's back. Protests have erupted all around the country and internationally as well. Mostly peaceful, some not, but we'll get to that in a second. I am going to be doing makeup while I talk, but this video will not be focused on the makeup. I will, however, be attempting to do dazzle makeup, which is almost like a camouflage that's meant to trick facial recognition technology. The way it works is by messing with contrast and symmetry of typical facial features, and it's something that hopefully helps to conceal your identity. I'm going to be trying to feature as many Black-owned brands as I possibly can. And just a quick note, I do not recommend doing something like this to go to a protest. You should never wear anything that makes you stand out from a crowd. And also, apparently, modern facial recognition technology can read past this. They've worked on it so that this doesn't affect it. This works for like Instagram filters and stuff. It will not recognize my face, but for actual surveillance technology, it will, unfortunately. I just thought it was an interesting concept, and to see how technology works and how we can protect ourselves from it if it's being used against us. The best thing to do to protect your identity is by showing as little of your face as possible, and the simplest and most effective way to do that is by wearing a mask. This video is most likely going to get demonetized, but if it doesn't, I'm going to be donating all the earnings I make from it to a protester bailout organization. So let's talk about the protests. So, the day after Floyd's murder, protesters began to gather at the location where he was pinned down by the police. They marched peacefully from there to the police department's 3rd Precinct headquarters. As the day went on, tension escalated. The MPD's 3rd Precinct headquarters was damaged. At around 8 p.m., the police started firing chemical agents and rubber bullets at the protesters. Later, it started to rain and the protesters pretty much dispersed. The day after that, the protests continued, and police attacked the protesters with tear gas, flashbangs, and rubber bullets. That night, the precinct was pretty much burnt to the ground. There are rumors, however, of the fires being started by undercover cops and instigators. The media keeps reporting about how protesters are looting stores, while failing to mention some crucial information. Thankfully, I had someone reach out to me in my Instagram DMs and give me a full first-hand account of what's really going on. I'm going to read their exact words. I live in Minneapolis and they're arresting reporters and using cell jammers so people can't live stream any of the attacks. We didn't know if any of the footage was even getting out of the precinct blocks last night in all the chaos. They're blocking EMTs and targeting medics with tear gas, rubber bullets, and flashbangs, and no one could even call for an ambulance. I was only at the 3rd Precinct location, so I can't speak for the other big riots in Midway and downtown, but the basics are, the protesters did not start the escalation. A police officer started the first fire in the auto zone across the intersection from the precinct. There are a lot of very unsettled undercover cops in the crowds trying to get information on other protest locations in the cities. The looting started because the target was refusing to sell water or medical supplies to protesters who had been tear gassed or hit with rubber bullets. There's a tent outside the target where people are bringing the stolen goods, and it's all medical supplies, food, water, clothes to protect against the gas, and baby supplies for mothers in the area. The liquor store was raided for supplies as well. We used the plywood from the windows as shields against the flashbangs. There are a lot of fires around the metro, but the protesters are not touching BIPOC-owned businesses. Oh. While reading this, I just got a public safety alert. The city of Los Angeles is declaring that a curfew will be in place from 8 p.m. tonight to 5:30 a.m. tomorrow for the entire city of Los Angeles. Traveling to and from work, seeking or giving emergency care, and emergency responders are exempt. Additional information is available on the city website. Okay, looks like shit's going down here too. But going back. The air quality is atrocious in the entirety of the metro area and about 10 minutes out either way. My asthmatic roommates are really struggling to breathe. The police, SWAT, and National Guard have been authorized to use lethal force. But even before that, they have been using non-lethal weapons in incredibly lethal methods. They're aiming for the head with flashbangs, and they're going for the stomach with rubber bullets and green tips. So many people have had their heads split open. Safety side note. There's something really fucking wrong with the water pouring out of the condos near the precinct. I don't know what, but there wasn't a way to get out of the precinct, active fires east, south, and west, without going through the water, and it's tainted somehow. My skin still burns, and the surface was rainbow. We're wondering if they punctured a gas main from the smell. No weapons have been used by protesters, only shields and bottles to try to get the cops away or distract them from targeting the medics. It's just so fucking scary. It hit a point last night where it wasn't find somewhere safe, it was get out. There are white supremacists taking the opportunity to fire on people of color. Let that sink in. Several white trucks reported firing on medics in Midway, and they were mingling with the cops, so it wasn't even safe to be outside. But they weren't letting people leave the bad areas. There's rumors of the National Guard shutting down cell service throughout the metro, starting to get choppy Wi-Fi too. Not sure how long we're gonna have communication out of the city, but it is going to be incredibly dangerous tonight without communication methods. If you don't have walkies, get indoors. The last communication I had with the medic roommate was him asking me to fight for his correct name and gendering if he dies. That was several hours ago. No further communication, no responses. KKK also cited in residential areas. Several other white supremacist groups present and emboldened. And then today they messaged me again and said, update from my medic roommate. The National Guard is threatening to shoot to kill if medics try to approach the crowd. He got hit with rubber bullets and there's still mace in his hair. It's really fucking scary to use chemical weapons that trigger coughing during a pandemic, and it is very much intentional. So, as you heard, there have been reports of the fires and damage to shops being caused by undercover cops.
This right here?
Yeah, they put them there.
This the setup.
They put them there on purpose,
Y'all know where
bro.
we at.
They gonna set them on right up on the route.
Y'all know what building this is right here. I ain't even gonna say what name it is.
Hey, where do them bricks go to? Where do them bricks go to? Where do them bricks
We
go
gotta
to?
do better.
Ain't no damn construction.
Gotta do better.
Ain't no damn construction around here.
I see.
Ain't no damn construction around here. You just gonna set a pallet of bricks right there.
Look at that shit.
Bounce on the hood, motherfucker.
Look at that shit. The cops are breaking their own car, and they're gonna blame it on the protesters.
And white supremacists trying to instigate disorder so that the protests can be dispersed with non-lethal weapons and arrests can be made. And not to mention that every single person that was arrested in St. Paul, Minnesota was from out of state, which means people are going there just to wreak havoc and give Minnesota a bad name.
We see the kind of destruction that is taking place in our streets. We know those are not our organizers. We know those are not our protesters. We know those are not the people who are grieving the lives that have been taken from our community. Because we all know that we have collectively fought for business development to take place on Lake Street. Every single meeting that Ray and Jeff and I have been in has been to invest in minority-owned businesses in our communities, to develop this corridor and make our community a more equitable one. So when you see a destruction to one of the most valued business corridors for minority communities in Minneapolis being destroyed, you know those are not minorities that are doing that destruction.
Today, spending just 5 minutes on Twitter, I could see the reality is very different from what the media is portraying in other cities too.
She's walking away!
The police have been taping over their body cams and their badge numbers, which has gotta be fucking illegal, right? Like, it's gotta be. You would think. I didn't do research, but you'd think it would be illegal. They are using their non-lethal weapons in very lethal ways. They are aiming for people's heads and eyes, and I saw a woman that was going into surgery to try to save her eye because it had been directly hit. There is video footage of police violating First Amendment rights, arresting an entire CNN crew, and also shooting rubber bullets at other news crews.
I'm getting shot! I'm getting...
Katie, are you okay?
Rubber bullets, it's okay. It's those pepper bullets. It's those pepper bullets.
Who are they aiming that at?
Now he's shooting at the photographer.
At us, like directly at us. Directly
Why
at
are they
us.
doing that?
He's shooting at our crew.
I don't
Do
know.
they not know
We're
that
behind
obviously
their
they see
lines.
the camera?
If they're doing that to people that are legally allowed to be there, who know their rights, imagine what they're doing to people who don't know their rights. Here in LA, they called ICE as well as the police. So on top of all of that that's going on, they're also trying to deport undocumented immigrants that are protesting. So if you're planning on joining the protests, please be careful. I realize this video is coming out after most of the protests have happened, but I imagine the protests are going to go on for a while. And I also imagine it's only going to get worse from here. So please be careful. I was actually able to find a few different resources that might be able to help. First of all, follow Lethal Lex on TikTok. She's a veteran protester that gives out very good tips.
For any new activists who are going out in Minneapolis tonight and protesting, I thought I'd give you a few more tips. Number one, I guarantee they put undercover cops in your crowd tonight. Careful with what you say around people you don't know. Number two, call the ACLU right now and ask them to send legal observers. These are people who don't get involved in your protest. They come in blue vests, they film everything, and they document any police brutality. Number three, Google ACLU Know Your Rights brochure so you know your rights before you go. Listen to police scanners so you know which way they're moving. And remember that a federal judge ruled that they can't say you have 15 seconds to disperse or you'll be arrested. A federal judge ruled that unconstitutional in Ferguson, Missouri. Good luck.
This is also a handy little chart that shows you what you should wear and bring to a protest, and also what you shouldn't have on you. As I'm filming this, I've been getting so many notifications of things that are happening real time or things that are being updated to social media. So far, I've gotten news about the riots in LA happening today that were completely peaceful. Everyone was kneeling, everyone was singing, everyone was walking until the police got involved and started beating everyone with their sticks and shooting rubber bullets. So it looks like a lot of the instigation is started by the police in hopes that the protests will disperse. So it seems like things are getting worse as we speak. And with all that being said, the media is definitely covering a lot of the destruction that they are pinning on the protesters, but they're not covering Minneapolis mourning George Floyd. Or coming together to clean up the city. Or coming together to share food and resources. And that needs to be shown too. If you truly want to help and you don't know how to, first off, I would suggest following some BIPOC activists who are creating resources to learn from. I'm going to be leaving links in the description box of this video. And just a little side note, Black people are not obligated to educate you on racism. They're not obligated to teach you anything. You have the internet. You have Google. You can do your own research. It's your responsibility to educate yourself. As a white person, you have to go after the information. You should know Black history. It's part of your history too. And if you are able to, please consider donating to organizations that are bailing out protesters and actively helping them out right now. A lot of people are donating to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, and while that's fine and they are doing good work, they are a nonprofit and they manage their finances as such, which means a good portion of their money goes towards maintaining the nonprofit. So wages, rent, etc. And only a small amount is allocated towards community-related work. This is our opportunity to redirect our attention and support to Black-led groups who are actively organizing on the ground so that money doesn't get lost in the bureaucracy. Like, for example, the Black Visions Collective. It is a Black, queer, and trans-led group. Even the Minnesota Freedom Fund has asked people to donate to the Black Visions Collective. I'm also going to be linking other causes and organizations in the description. And before I sign off, I just wanted to address something real quick. I posted this tweet in my Instagram stories, and I got this response from someone. How dare you defend white people right now? How fucking dare you? The conversation is not about white people right now. Don't make it about you. Black people are being murdered. Can you even grasp that? And I'm just addressing this because I imagine there's going to be comments similar to this in this video, so that's why. You know what this message sounds like? It sounds like you're saying, I'm not racist, but... And honestly, that's not a good look. Nobody said all lives matter until we said Black Lives Matter. Nobody said straight pride until we said gay pride. If your only reason for creating a movement is to take away attention from another movement, you might want to take a look at your real intentions behind it.
We have been being beaten for more than 300 years. There is blood on these streets, sir. Why are we going to continue being peaceful when they are killing my brothers and sisters? We are being peaceful. We are on the grass. Why are they here? It is because of them why we're here, so why the fuck are they here, sir? I'm tired of being peaceful.
We on the
I
grass.
have 3 brothers to this, sir. 3! This is not alright! I'm hurt! You don't see my eyes? I'm hurt! My people out here hurt! I'm tired of this! I'm not sitting down. If I gotta die behind my color, I'm gonna die about it! My kids after me, they gonna walk these streets freely, just like everybody else can walk these streets freely. I'm not standing down! I'm black and I'm proud and I'm strong!
Stand down.
Together we are strong! No justice! No